Drew, guess what?
Chicken butt?
No, but I appreciate you dusting off the classics. Kid Rock saw a shadow today, so you know what that means. 6 more weeks of fireworks, Drew.
Oh.
It's.
I mean,
here we are.
It's July 3rd. I'll allow it, today, tomorrow, but past that, yeah.
Yeah, we're recording. It's Friday night, July 3rd. Fireworks are going off all over the place, and that's fine. This is the weekend for that. Knock yourself out. Make sure you got all your fingers and toes at the end of it. But just keep in mind again, there are 3 things that are not very welcome to fireworks. For pets, dogs specifically, not all of them enjoy fireworks. Veterans who may suffer from PTSD don't enjoy fireworks. And Drew, lest we forget, G.I. Joe figures all around. Shudder every time they hear a firecracker.
If they had sadistic Sid-like owners, yes, that's true. It's very true.
I may or may not have shoved a firecracker in between the waists of a couple Joes.
You sick man.
Yeah. But yeah, here we are, back again. New week, new episode. Getting back on track with our recap. Drew, how have your weeks been, sir?
In the words of Luke Skywalker, same as always.
That bad, huh?
Exactly. No, it's fine. It's fine. Everything's okay. Just same old. Not a lot to report, to be honest with you. Hanging in there as best I can. That's all we can hope for. Had a nice day today. Drove out to Chautauqua and hit up a small beach with the family. Made sure to keep my distance from everybody, and which everyone was respectful of, and it was nice. It was good day at the beach.
And keeping distance from everyone, including your family.
Well, them aside.
Yeah.
No, it was good. Just a good getaway day, and came home, made pizza, and finished watching the requisite film of the evening. So that's really about it. Not much to report on, to be honest with you. Otherwise, that's the times we live in now. It's not like I've gone anywhere. It's not like I've done anything too exciting. So. Yeah.
How were people at the beach? Were they being cool? Were they, social distancing and whatnot?
Yeah, like I said, everybody just keeping their distance, sticking to themselves. I felt bad because Grant wanted to play with some other kids, and I kind of had to pull him away. And it was fine though. He's become he's a very social kid, and this is all weird. I don't want to teach him to be so fearful of strangers, but at the same time, It's just where we're at right now, unfortunately. So hopefully, once he gets to be at a more impressionable age, everything will be back to normal somewhat, and life will go on. But for now, it's a little weird.
Yeah, we'll get there. Probably a little longer than we had hoped. But
well, in America, yeah, certainly.
Yes. Yeah, America. We're just having one big national mood swing after another, aren't we?
Well, when your national identity is basically screw you, it's only about me. It's going to be rough.
Yeah.
So, anyway, good times.
Cool. So,
how are you?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said, how are you?
I was doing all right. I don't think I've been organizing the office, the game shelves and whatnot.
Yeah.
I got I got another set of shelves in, and I accidentally. It's funny because I got the one set of shelves. I sent you guys that picture. Then I got the second set of shelves, same exact set. I put it together backwards.
Oh, so
and by the time I realized I put it together backwards, fortunately, it wasn't backwards in a way that it would not function as shelves. But there are some support struts that are not in it right now.
Not quite as sturdy as you would like.
It's not quite as sturdy, but it's not dangerously unsturdy.
That's fair.
So I'm going to get like some brackets to screw into the wall to hold the shelves in place. Just to kind of pin them back, make them flush against the wall. So it'll be nice. So did that. William doing his thing. Yeah. Joyful little handful he is. That's being kind.
Have kids, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
I love my son.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Yep.
Anyway.
What else did I watched the animated Dark Knight Returns again, which we're going to get into in a bit. What else did I do? I watched something else. I was like, finally. Oh, I had a fun parent moment today, actually. Like, all sarcasm aside, whatnot. So, Julie went out for Starbucks, and she took William with her. So I got some time myself. I'm like, you know what? I'm beat. I just want to lay down and put something on that I can drift in and out of paying attention to. And I remembered, oh wait, Mask of Phantasm is on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I threw that thing on. Now, when William was younger, when he was like, when he was starting to recognize things, one of the first things he recognized and really enjoyed was Batman. I started showing him the Batman the Animated Series. Now, this may have been a slight parenting faux pas, mistake, if you will.
Why?
Because he started having nightmares.
Oh.
Because, like, we look at that series and it's just like, my God, this is a masterpiece of animation and storytelling.
Yes.
But we look at it through the eyes of, like, older people.
Yes.
You take an episode like, the Clayface episode.
I was just going to say a Clayface or a Two-Face episode.
Not only that, Clayface episode. You put that through the eyes of a 2-year-old, you're like, yeah, maybe not just yet with this.
Yeah, that's fair.
I got the look from Julie the one night when he woke up. I'm like, all right, that's good enough. So I stopped showing that, but I was watching Mask of Phantasm because it's awesome. And they came home, and William came in, and he just sat down and started watching it with me. I'm like, you know what? He's older now. We'll see how this goes and whatnot. Mask of Phantasm, spooky at sometimes, maybe for a 3-year-old. He didn't seem to mind. As soon as it was done, he wanted to start it right up again.
Wow.
I was like, well, I got to go start getting the grill ready for dinner. So, okay, knock yourself out. So we might be able to reapproach the animated series again at some point.
Okay.
Maybe a little careful with the episodes that I select. So that, like, I know there's stuff I'm forgetting.
I started watching Ozark on Netflix.
Yeah, how's that?
Oh boy.
A good old boy or a bad old boy?
I mean, I'm enjoying it for the most part, but like, how to describe it? I didn't know anything about it other than people were talking about it. So I was like, well, I'll give it a shot, literally knowing nothing about it. So it took me aback very quickly when I found out what kind of show it was. And then I've been trying to figure out a way to describe it. And basically the way I would describe Ozark is like, It reminds me of Breaking Bad, except without the levity. And that's saying a lot, because there's not a ton of levity in Breaking Bad either.
Okay.
So it's some intense, dark stuff.
All right. Oh, that reminds me. Thank you. That reminds me. We did watch something this week. We watched Knives Out.
How was that?
It is fantastic.
Really?
Highly recommend it.
So you're saying that Ryan Johnson isn't a hack fraud?
No.
Okay.
I never said that, nor will I ever say that.
Oh, I think there's a lot of people in the Star Wars community that would beg to differ with you, Carl.
Every fan community has its people who are wrong, and
yes.
we do what we can to educate them.
I'm giving up.
But yeah, it was fantastic. Like, Daniel Craig with a deep Southern accent, Chris Evans, a complete douchebag.
He's good.
It's like,
yeah, it's amazing that he kind of came up playing that kind of douchey character, and yet somehow he is the best Captain America you could have ever imagined in his earnestness. Like, what a ride.
Yeah. So I would definitely recommend watching that. You can stream it for free on Amazon Prime if you have it.
Cool.
So yeah, that's definitely a watch to be had. So that is our week's, dear listeners. As always, we appreciate you stopping by. If you want to drop us a line, tell us about your weeks. Let us know how you're doing. I didn't post anything that we were recording, and that's my bad for anyone who may have wanted to write in. We do have one email to go over, but if you want to reach out to us in the future, you can find us at the following social media contacts. You can follow us on Twitter at DevilsDoPod. You can email us at thedevilsdupod@gmail.com. You can like our Facebook page at facebook.com/DevilsDoPod, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdupodcast.com. We do have an email this week. It was sent last week, I believe, by Mr. Cyrus Moore, frequent contributor to the show.
Yes, sir.
Cyrus writes, "Greetings, gentlemen. Hope you are well. I know I tend to write long emails. You don't have to read the whole thing. Cyrus, listen, if you're going to go through the effort to write them, I'm going to read them. Your last episode centered around two somber but important topics, Black Lives Matter movement and the COVID pandemic, both of which I'm very thankful for you both addressing and being honest about. While I am having some optimism that Black Lives Matter movement will install some real change, as it already has, I have to be honest, I have almost no optimism on the pandemic. My sister is a nurse practitioner, and her hospital has a COVID ward. It went from completely full in March to completely empty in May, and now being completely full again, and they are looking to expand. We seem to have lost all ground we gained during the shutdown, mostly from failed leadership and improper reopening procedures. As a country, I feel like we've lost the initiative on this thing, and it won't be getting better again or truly be over until the vaccine is widely available. On a lighter note, speaking of initiative, if you happen to hear a loud noise coming from the direction of Kansas City, don't be alarmed. That's just the sound of the collective heads of my Dungeons & Dragons group exploding from the massive revelation I'm about to drop on them.
Oh boy.
So in that vein, what is your favorite twist or surprise in entertainment media?
Wow.
Any form.
Oh man, that's good. So I guess we should probably get the spoilers out of the way right now, right?
With a twist.
Okay. Oh, okay. There's a twist. Go on.
With a twist. Well, no, I'm just saying with a twist.
Oh, yes,
so
yes.
Our favorite surprise or twist in entertainment media.
Well, wow. I've got a few. I mean, it's we live in a world now where it can't shock anymore. But when I was a kid, and I didn't know anything about anything, and when I found out when Darth Vader tells Luke that he's his father, that will melt your brain as a young one. Unfortunately, due to the Star Wars saga being what it is now. That is no longer much of a twist, I guess. But it
could still be your favorite one.
It's a good one. And then let me think, another great one that I will always come back to because it's a major turning point in the game itself, in the narrative, and also because the dialogue and the delivery is so strong. The very first Mass Effect, spoilers. I mean, obviously spoilers for twists and revelations and whatnot, in case you guys didn't know. So in the first Mass Effect, which I will contend is the best Mass Effect, come at me, you spend the majority of the first half plus of the game chasing the lead antagonist, villain named Saren. He flies a ship called Sovereign. It's like his flagship. Well, you reach a point in the game where you have, learned a certain thing or two about a race of ancient beings called the Reapers, who over millennia have wiped out sentient life in the galaxy and then drifted away into parts unknown, only for sentient life to rise again in the galaxy and the Reapers to return to wipe it out yet again. Well, what you find out is Saren, the villain, he's really not the primary antagonist, and that Sovereign is not his ship. Sovereign is an honest-to-God Reaper, and you talk to Sovereign in a very intense part, in a very intense cutscene and dialogue sequence, and it takes everything that you thought you knew about the narrative of this game and of this story and flips it on its head and delivers some seriously heavy stuff on you, the player. It's by far one of the most impactful things that I've ever experienced in media, in terms of revelations and twists, and so much so that I wrote a song about it. So Mass Effect 1, my favorite. It's my favorite Mass Effect, and it's on my short list of all times.
Okay. I think mine, obviously, Vader, the Vader reveal is the de facto number one. You can make the argument that's the greatest plot twist in film history.
I would listen to that.
But another one that comes to mind is from the Batman storyline Hush. Hush, this was back, I think it was 2008 that Hush ran.
It goes back a ways, man.
This was it was year 2004, 2008. So this was Jim Lee's first foray into DC Comics. And Hush was a 12-part story. And it is if I can make a strong case for it being in the top 10
2002
Batman
Carl.
stories of all time. 2002.
We old.
The top 10 Batman stories of all time, but definitely in the bottom half. Because it doesn't quite stick the land.
I know where you're going with this, but go on.
And it had a moment.
Yeah.
That had they stuck with this.
Yeah.
And made this the thing.
Yeah.
It would have been in that top 5 all-time stories, because the character Hush throughout all of this is a character who's just bandaged up on his face. You have no idea who it is. And it's someone who Batman can tell has clearly knows his methods, knows how he operates, and can counter him at every turn. And there's one, I think it's part 4, part 5 of the story, where at the end of the book, Hush has Robin in his in his arm with a knife to his throat, like Tim Drake Robin, and he pulls his bandages down, and it's Jason Todd.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Jason Todd is the Robin who was killed in Death of the Family. Again, going back to next week, Denny O'Neil, an idea that was put forward by the late great Denny O'Neil, in which readers got to vote whether or not Robin lived or died. And they ultimately voted by a very narrow margin that he died, and it was the Jason Todd Robin. And this was kind of pre the everybody's coming back to life boom.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The Winter Soldier was. I want to know. I just want to double check the years, because it was. I want to say it was like close to that. Oh man, go on. Do go on while I look this up. So
he pulls down the bandages, and the last page of the issue is it's Jason Todd.
Yeah,
and my jaw is on the floor, and I'm instantly so much more into the story, because not only have we brought back someone that was dead before this became super commonplace in comics, but brought back arguably Batman's greatest failure, and you've made him a villain.
Yeah.
And for the next 30 days before I got the next issue, I'm like, this could be so good.
Yep. But
and then it turned out to be Clayface.
Yeah, they really dropped the ball on that.
And if they had just stuck with Jason Todd being the villain,
yeah,
and make sure at the end of the story that he dies again permanently this time, you have an all-time great top 5 Batman story.
I would not. Yeah, I would agree. Alas,
and
they.
Yeah.
But I got it. So go just for whatever reason I couldn't think of I was trying to. I should have had a comics one at the ready, but I didn't. But now that you've kind of brought me back around, I have a similar one. But this one did stick the landing.
Okay.
Shocker. Grant Morrison's new X-Men run.
Shocker, the Spider-Man villain?
No. If the Shocker could ever actually shock me, that would be a shock. So, no. No. Grant Morrison's new X-Men run. Again, spoilers. If you haven't read it, man, I cannot possibly recommend it enough. And I'm about to spoil the grand finale of it, I guess. So, spoilers if you don't want to know. But you spend in the very first issue of Grant Morrison's new X-Men, he destroys the entire mutant nation of Genosha with Sentinels invade and wipe out millions upon millions of mutants, kills them all. And in one of those panels, you see Magneto. Now, mind you, at the time Grant Morrison's new X-Men came out, Magneto had been left paralyzed and basically powerless by Professor Xavier, because it was all post Heroes Return and Onslaught and all that business, right? So Professor X dealt with Magneto in a semi-permanent way, and that's where he was. And Magneto, you see a panel of him in a window, very small, looking small, basically, in the face of a fleet of Sentinels invading Genosha, and then you just see the building and the floor he's on just explode. So Magneto was taken off the board in the very first issue of Grant Morrison's new X-Men. Now, a new character is introduced called Zorn, and Zorn is prominent in Grant Morrison's new X-Men for the entire duration. He's a hero. He's a healer. He has a mask on, a metal mask, and his identity's kind of... They don't really build it up as a mystery, but he is mysterious in that you never see his face, and he alludes to his background, and whatever. He's a new mysterious character. So, fast forward to nearing the end of Grant Morrison's New X-Men, probably the second to last, third to last arc. Just like you said, you get to the end of a particular issue, all the chips fall where they may. All of the all the cards are dealt where they need to be, and the X-Men are splintered and vulnerable, and Professor Xavier, who has been able to walk again with the use of nanomachines in his spine for a good duration of the Morrison run, suddenly falls to the ground, crippled again, and you see Professor Xavier call out telepathically, "X-Men emergency," and then you see an actual speech bubble coming from someone off panel saying, "X-Men emergency indeed." And then the next page, you turn the page, and it is Zorn with his helmet off, or rather hovering above his head. And who is it but Magneto underneath Zorn's helmet? And that was the cliffhanger for the next arc. That was mind-blowing. So, yeah, that's good stuff. And then when you go back and you read all of the Zorn issues, all of the clues to his identity were there all along, but you never put it together until he finally reveals who he is. Twists can be fun.
Twists can be fun when done correctly.
But unfortunately, kind of like Hush, although Marvel took their time in ruining it, unlike DC, who ruined Hush in the course of the next issue. Zorn as Magneto was a cool thing, and then, we can't have that because Magneto gets killed by Wolverine in the subsequent arc, like legitimately decapitated on panel. And then we get into Marvel having to retcon that because Morrison then left the company. And then it turns out that it wasn't Magneto, it was Zorn pretending to be Magneto, pretending to be Zorn. And that Zorn wasn't really Zorn, it's Zorn's brother who was also Zorn. And there is actually a Zorn who was a good guy all along. And
So it basically went back to X-Men status quo.
Yeah, which was what Morrison was trying to get away from when he took over the title, and why it was very successful. And then, can't have that. We can't possibly have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to mention, while we're on Morrison twist, oh God, Animal Man, when the true nature of Animal Man's reality is revealed to him, that's, oh God, what a great twist. And the final panel, the final page of that Grant Morrison Animal Man run, what a beautiful twist, a happy twist. I won't spoil it. I don't want to spoil these things because they're so good.
Like a twisted key light.
Yeah. I think props have to be given for like Alan Moore's twist on Swamp Thing, right? He basically reinvented the whole paradigm of the character. That would
Yeah, I'm not sure if you would call that so much a twist as it's just like a reinvention of the character.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. Cyrus, as always, thank you for your email. We appreciate
twists are
it.
fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, normally this is the time where we get into the news. You know what, folks? It's all bad this week.
It's bad news.
It's all bad. It's so many things that we care about right now. Just like I'm not talking about like the larger issues going on in Black Lives Matter, the pandemic, things like that. I'm talking about things that are more pertinent to the show. The professional wrestling industry, the comic book industry, the fighting game community right now, all three of these things are basically on fire.
Yeah.
And none of it is good, and none of it makes you feel good about really liking any of these things. They all seem to be relatively the same thing, which is reports of sexual assault and
grooming, harassment, just widespread.
Grooming, harassment on every level, widespread. And we definitely send out our hearts and our support to those who are coming forward and having the courage to speak up. But it's just right now with everything else going on, the news is just all bad. So we're going to forego the news this week.
Yeah.
Again, it's not because we don't feel these things are worth talking about. Under normal circumstances, we would be addressing these things. But right now, many of you have commented how this show has kind of been a bright spot of everything that's going on in this world. And we don't want to dwell on more negativity. So I think if you've been listening to our show for any amount of time, you know where we would stand on these issues. And so we're going to kind of have just like because there was an anniversary this week that got us talking in our group chat with Alan and like just different things talking about. So we're going to do like some kind of Batman talk.
Let's talk about Batman
for a little bit, and then we're going to go into episode 3, our episode 3 recap. So we hope you'll stick around with this. We usually have a good time with this stuff. And again, if you've been with us for any amount of time, you know where we would stand on a lot of these issues that are going on in these 3 industries right now. We hope that the positive change that we're seeing the Black Lives Matter movement create, the spirit of change that is going around right now in our society can spill over into these 3 avenues, and we can move forward and all be better. So, that being said, this past week, and I know last year we spoke about this in depth. I think we might have done a whole episode on it. I can't remember. But this past week was the 31st anniversary of the 1989 Batman film. And this kind of gained notoriety because one of the news things that happened the past couple of weeks is that Michael Keaton is reportedly in talks to return to the role as Batman in the Flash movie. So, quick take on that. I don't think it's going to happen because it's dependent on the Flash movie getting made. But I kind of hope it does, just not in a Flash movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on, like, of course I want to see Michael Keaton as Batman again, right?
Yeah.
But in the Flash movie, like you said, I don't know. Yeah. Number one, it doesn't inspire a lot of confidence because that movie seems destined to just never happen.
Yeah,
but
if you gotta generate hype for your film by getting a completely different character other than the title character into your film,
yeah. Not only that, a version of him from 31 years ago that is like revered by a generation.
Yeah.
Like, so if you need that in your movie to generate hype, you might want to reconsider your movie, I guess. But
right. So that.
Well, let's not dwell. Yeah. Let us not dwell. It could be.
Yeah, we're not going to dwell on that. So that combined with the 31st anniversary of the 89 Batman, combined with me rewatching the animated Dark Knight Returns, we got to talking in our group chat about some different things. First and foremost being the 89 Batman film. And just, well, Drew, you're the one that kind of initiated this, so I'll let you start this out.
Specifically, what angle did you want me to kind of get into?
Well, I mean, just kind of what the movie did.
Oh God, I mean, now granted, when it came out, you're a little older than me, but I was 7, right? So my recollection of like movie cinema before Batman is limited. I don't really remember, right? But with my, I do have a degree in media study, and that there's a lot of film. I've studied a lot of movies, and I've watched a lot of movies, and I've made a lot of crappy movies, and I've dissected a lot of movies over the years. It is a passion of mine to some degree, and when you know about movies, you kind of look at certain benchmarks in the industry and how they changed things. Star Wars being an obvious one, Jaws being an obvious one in terms of like, what is a blockbuster and that kind of thing. Batman 89 changed everything in the same way that like Star Wars did, except it did it with even more media omnipresence. Like Batman 89 was like a cultural event. It was a happening. Yeah. It was more than a movie. Like it was a thing.
It was all your summer of '89 was about.
Yeah, period. The poster with just the logo, in gold and black, and like, that the trailer with no music, just scenes.
Yeah.
It was everywhere. You could not look anywhere without seeing the Batman logo being thrown in your face, right? I mean, it was this was a cultural happening.
When I think back to that time, like say I'm a little bit older, so I definitely have some fond memories of that time. Of the films in my lifetime that have been the most anticipated, Episode 1, Endgame, Avengers Endgame,
yeah,
Force Awakens, none of them had the hype going into it that Batman had. None of them did. And this was before the time of social media. Like, don't get me wrong, there was marketing. Arguably the most genius marketing ever, because they realized that all you needed was the symbol.
Right.
And this mammoth thing, when it opened, at some point in the summer, it was not a question of have you seen it? It's how many times have you seen it? And it was just, there was so much hype for it.
It was just like we are for as much as we're telling you, if you did not live through this, dear listener, man, we are not overstating this. Like it was, it was just omnipresent.
Like, and just like the lead into it was just, it's like this didn't start when the film was released. This was starting, I think the film came out in late June.
Yeah, late June. That's why we got talking about it. It was the anniversaries of the release. So yeah. Late June 1989.
Yeah. And it really, like, the hype train was going for months before. And just like you said, you had that trailer. There's no music in it whatsoever. And then like it comes out and it delivers.
It does. But the thing is, and this kind of, we had this conversation, like, it is not by any stretch a perfect representation of the character Batman. No. And Batman himself is even kind of a minor character at best in his own movie. But there is just something about that movie that is magical. It is like the definition of movie magic. And that got us kind of talking about, like, Tim Burton did two Batman movies. And 89 for me, hands down, for all its flaws with the character and whatnot, wins. Because it just has a magic to it that is so hard to quantify. But if we started talking about it, and I started to be able to quantify certain things. It has a vibe. It has a feel. It feels fully realized. Its Gotham feels fully realized. Its world feels fully realized. the texture, the texture of every frame. Like Returns, I feel like doesn't have that. Batman 89 though, just the clothing, the sets, the color palette, everything just feels right and lush, and I don't know. I struggle to use the word real because it's so outlandish, and yet it works. And then in Returns, it got a little too Burton-y, and it doesn't feel as real. It feels more like sets, and it feels more. There's more artifice involved.
It's the one thing that I always say whenever we bring up Returns, other than quoting Smith saying there was a Happy Meal attached to this film. And folks, if you've ever seen Returns, you look back and like, this film should not have a Happy Meal, nor should it be anywhere near kids.
No.
Returns just feels smaller.
Yeah.
On every level.
Which is strange considering that it's on paper much bigger.
Right. Like if I had to make a top 5 list of my Batman films, 89 would probably be number 3. But it's hands down the best looking Batman film ever.
That Gotham to this day, that is how I imagine Gotham City.
Has such a presence and personality.
Yeah.
It feels like it's closing in around you and you cannot escape from it.
Now, admittedly, it doesn't have a lot of locations and whatnot either. Like, it's kind of like the same few streets and the same, the same landmarks and whatnot. But they do. It just seems like they do so much with what they've got to make it feel much, much, much bigger.
Right. I've always said that, Metropolis should feel like New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Like City of Light, Shining, new, modern, things like that. Gotham should feel more like Boston, where it's old world design, and just like you can see where, and they really nailed this in the 89, where it's been torn down and rebuilt upon itself over and over again. It just keeps building upon itself. Whereas like something like Metropolis will just wipe something away completely and build something completely new.
That's fair. Gotham just it's terrifyingly beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it
has a very macabre beauty to it.
Right. It's rusty. It's dingy. It's broken. But like you said, it feels like it's just creeping up on you all the time, and yet it just looks incredible.
Right.
and the sun shines for like an hour a day.
Yeah, pretty much. And you just don't get that with any of the other live action representations.
No, you're right. You're absolutely. I was going to say,
like
none of them.
Nolan's films are great.
They are
would probably be second best Batman film ever. But like, perfect example is when we were in theater watching the Nolan films. My wife lived in Chicago for a time in her life, and she would get really excited when she would see a location that she knew, and she'd tap me on the arm, like, I know where that is, whatnot. And that's great. I love her enthusiasm for it, but doing that kind of takes me out of what I'm trying to believe is Gotham City.
Right. He made no real effort at all to, make it its own place. He just used real places. Now, given the vibe, given the vibe of those movies, it works, but it does.
And he gets there a little bit in the first one with like the Narrows and the bad neighborhood.
Right. But then they blow it up and they say it's lost.
Yeah.
So, okay, gone.
Yeah.
And the train, the train is never seen or heard from again in the second one. Like, they kind of... Yeah, they dropped all the interesting Gotham stuff in Dark Knight, never to be seen again. But yeah, just going back to '89 though, like it was just so fully realized, and the look of that film, and the feel of that film, honestly, that was the basis of the animated series. Like not totally,
yeah.
but that dark deco inspiration was there, and that led to the animated series aesthetic.
Yeah, and not only the aesthetic of Gotham, but like the aesthetic of the suit, while not perfect.
No, yeah, but it had a look. I don't know. It worked.
It had a look that fit in the world, and it had a functionality, limited though it may be, that made it more believable as something that, like, up until that point, we had been used to the blue and gray kind of spandex look of Batman. They really hadn't explored a lot, from my understanding in the comics, of like the technical aspect of the suit. It was just always the suit.
Right.
So, the idea of the chest piece being armor, and the gauntlets, and the shin guards serving a functionality, the devices within the suit serving that functionality. It worked really well while keeping. You could definitely tell where the classic inspirations of it came from, especially with like the utility belt. The utility belt at the time, as it's represented in '89, is right off the page from what it is at that time in the comics.
Bright yellow.
Yeah.
Yeah. The car. The car. Still the best. I know it's practically terrible. I know that. I know it does not make any sort of sense, and it would be horrible to drive, and for all the reasons. I don't care. It looks awesome. It's movie. Yeah. It is movie magic.
It is. It's my favorite Batmobile to this day.
Hands down.
Film, comics, TV.
Yeah.
My favorite Batmobile. It's obviously, it's a little long, and thus has a difficulty turning. So, and obviously, pretty much 90% of its driving was being done on sets.
Mm-hmm.
So can't really do a lot with it. But just like the look of it, the functionality, and granted, it's got 50 caliber machine guns, which kind of getting into the things that the film didn't quite get right.
Look,
probably wouldn't have, but like when they pop up, you're like, wow.
Yeah, again, it does not, as a representation of Batman as we know him, not the best. But as a movie, man, it snaps. It all comes together. Nicholson is fantastic as the Joker. Keaton, for all the crap he took for being, not the obvious choice out, and not physically imposing and whatnot. No, he's not. But you know what? He has a presence to him that works. Once he's in the suit, he's Batman.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's funny because like a very popular saying about the film today is that it is in fact campy.
It is with some hindsight.
I don't see it as camp.
I wouldn't call it full tilt camp, but it's not it's not the serious, grim. For all the talk in '89 when it came out of how dour and gritty and grim it really wasn't. It's a few stones throws away from being a gothed up version of the TV show. Honestly, in a lot of ways, it kind of is.
It has some beats that you can compare to the '66 show.
Yeah.
The thugs all wearing the same jackets.
Yeah.
Nicholson's overall appearance But I mean, beyond that, it's really self-sustaining unto itself in what it's trying to do.
Totally.
You can tell where it's getting, a lot of inspiration from and whatnot. Obviously, they wanted to. The Dark Knight Returns, which we're going to talk about a little bit, had a lot of influence on it. More of like a tone influence than anything else. But like we've said, it, as far as an accurate representation of the character, is one of those things. Like, if you're like me when you saw this movie and you're like, holy crap, this movie is now my Bible. And then you start reading the comics. Like, I read a little bit of Batman going into this, and but really started reading afterwards. And just like years later, having a full understanding of the character, you're just like, you go back and you watch this, you're like, oh no. Like, especially the opening. The opening is so iconic.
It is.
The mugging.
Until you think about it for a minute.
And then they're up on a rooftop, and then Batman shows up behind him, and he does the thing with the cape. He's not saying anything, and the Batarang, and drags the guy towards him and holds him over the roof, like the classic, who are you, I'm Batman.
That's great.
That's great.
But let's back up for a second. Why didn't he stop the mugging?
So you're telling me this guy, whose parents were murdered in front of him by a mugger in a back alley when he was a kid, who dedicated his life to making sure that never happens to another kid again, is going to just stand there and let it happen to another kid and watch?
Yeah, I know. No. I know. And yet,
he lets the whole thing play out.
Yeah, but it all just works. It's like, I hate to say it, I hate to keep coming back to that, but like it just works. It all just somehow comes together into like, yep, this is a fine film.
It works within itself. This film has the same problem that, Batman versus Superman had, for example. Batman just straight up murdering some people in this movie.
Yeah.
When the Batmobile charges into the chemical factory.
Yeah. Yeah. Batman kills a lot of people.
Batman just kills a lot of people.
But you know what? I'm going to be, and somewhere out there's someone that's mad saying like, well, how could you be okay with that but not be okay with Batman versus Superman? And it's like, look, here, the reason why is these things are not all created equal. In '89, context is everything. We were happy just to get a Batman movie, okay, at that time.
Right.
So did it play fast and loose?
You get a comic book movie.
Right, yeah, exactly. So the rules, unfortunately, it's not an even playing field, and unfortunately, we can't judge them the same. I'm sorry, but it's just the way it is.
There's pre 2008 comic book films, and there's post 2008 comic book films.
Yeah, and especially with Batman, and given his whole mantra of non-killing, okay, Burton, didn't listen to that, but that was now, 31 years ago. Ooh, I just shuddered when I said that. Yeah, we know better now. You can do the right thing now, which Chris Nolan, did. And that's especially egregious because Nolan even made it a point to keep it in the movie, in his films, and keep it part of the character, only for Zack Snyder to just more or less jettison it because, of course, he did. Right. I don't want to dwell on that. Batman '89 is magic. It's magic, and fun. So I had a good time reminiscing about it the other day because it just, it left a big mark on me when I was young. Obviously, I was at that age when, of course, it would. And it just as a film, as an aesthetic, as a mood, as a presentation, like Batman '89 just really is. It is more than the sum of its parts in so many ways. Like the plot isn't even that great or big. Batman's a minor character in his own film. It's not super actiony, believe it or not. Like it's kind of talky. There's some action scenes, but there's not that many. But you know what? It doesn't matter because it all comes together into the sum being the whole being greater than the sum of its parts, really.
Yeah.
So
Prince
and at the height of his powers, Prince.
Yeah, it was great. I had many Batman T-shirts. So, and I want to swing to talk about for a little bit one of the things that served as a big inspiration, like we mentioned, for the Batman '89 film, which was The Dark Knight Returns, which I watched again the animated film this past week, which would probably be my number one Batman film. And I'm sure very clear arguments could be made for that not to be number one, but it is probably one of my all-time favorite books. I'm not just saying comic book, I'm just saying like work of literature. Is The Dark Knight Returns. It's easily my favorite Batman story, easily my favorite comic book story, if I'm going to break it down even more. And this thing, and again, it was kind of brought back around with the passing of Denny O'Neil, because Denny O'Neil had a big hand in kind of shepherding this project. And I think because it's become so commonplace in the lore, we tend to forget the impact that this book had. Like this book, along with Watchmen, and between 1986 and 1987, those two things totally changed comic books forever.
Yep.
You can make arguments that they change them for the better, and you can also make arguments that they change them for the worse.
Depends what lessons you took from them, but yeah.
Yeah. It was the beginning of the deconstruction of the superhero mythos. Something that I think right now the industry and readers of the whole would probably benefit from a reconstruction of the superhero mythos. Because we've been deconstructing for a very long time.
Yeah.
But this thing written by Frank Miller, and
back when he could write.
Yeah.
At the height of his powers.
Yeah, this is probably his masterpiece. Your one is good, but this is probably his masterpiece.
It's 1A and 1B for me, to be honest. They're both fantastic. And Miller became what he became, unfortunately, but at this time he was on fire. And like you said, the importance of Dark Knight Returns cannot be understated in the medium.
Yeah, I've started reading it again. I have the Absolute Dark Knight, the big hardbound copy. It's got Dark Knight Returns, Dark Knight Strikes Again in it. I've always meant to just get like a reader copy of Dark Knight Returns. Mm-hmm. Just because this thing is great. It's fantastic. It's slightly oversized, but it's just not physically comfortable to read.
Yeah, I have the Absolute Watchmen. I feel the same way about it. I love it. I love to break it out once in a while, but it's by no means is it my go-to to read the story.
It's got the silk bookmark in it and everything. So, There's an absolute Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams, Green Lantern, Green Arrow
No.
that at some point I do want to pick up. But the animated film, it was something that I always kind of wanted DC Animated to get around to doing. And when they finally announced they were doing it, I was kind of like, okay, let's see what they decide to do. And then they do probably the best thing for it is they decide to do it in 2 parts. And that was just really a great decision because it allowed them to get as much material in there while kind of streamlining it for the medium. There's not a lot that's not in there. Like the big points from the book, it's all in the film. And DC Animated at the time was very, very good with emulating the art style of the story they were adapting. You know, the Batman Superman animated film they came out with very much emulated Ed McGuinness's art.
Right.
The sequel to that one, where they introduce the latest incarnation of Supergirl, does a very good job at emulating Michael Turner's art. And this one does a really good job of emulating Lynn Varney's art. And Frank Miller's art, as he was the penciler on it.
Yep.
And it works on so many levels. The visuals are most of the times right off the page. The score, Drew, like the last time I watched it, the score really took me because it's just so perfectly done. It feels. I'm not going to see you and I. We hear music very differently. Mm-hmm. And I've talked about this with you in the past. I'm always fascinated how people who have the capability to actually create and make music hear music, because they hear it very differently than someone like me who does not have the ability to create music would hear it. So I listen to the score for Dark Knight Returns, and it's very like, yeah, there's that underlying tone of the classical symphonic score, but then it's mostly layered with 80s synth.
See, that fits. That's nice.
But done really well.
Yeah.
It very much reminded me of the Watchmen television series score. In the beats that it was hitting.
Speaking my language. Before you go on, I can't believe that we got done talking about Batman '89 and how awesome it is without mentioning how incredible the score is.
Well, I mean, it's the Danny Elfman score, man. It's defined how that character has sounded.
Yeah.
For years afterwards.
I'm still sorry, Hans Zimmer, but you're no Danny Elfman. I mean, I know that sounds like I'm not trying to. He's no Danny Elfman, but he made his version work. It's fine, but it's not the Elfman score, man. But they were going for different things. So anyway, that Elfman score. Anyway, Dark Knight Returns. Sorry.
And the score is just so fantastic, and the voice acting. I'm going to be speaking your language again because Peter Weller as Batman, RoboCop as Batman.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to react to it because obviously, number one in our hearts for the voice of Batman is always going to be Kevin Conroy.
Forever and always.
But I find that there are some times when he's voicing Batman that it takes me out of the story they're telling. Like, you're hearing Kevin Conroy's voice and you're thinking of the animated series, and kind of takes you out of what they might be trying to do.
Okay.
Like, I would love to hear a reading of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill doing the climactic scene from The Killing Joke, or the scene in Arkham Asylum from The Killing Joke. But I found when I watched the animated movie, them doing the voices kind of took me out of it at times.
There's, well, without getting too off topic, but I get what you're saying, and I kind of feel that way about the Arkham games, to be honest with you. I think it's commendable that they got the animated series voice cast back for the most part, and I think that that sold the game to a lot of people in a lot of ways. It gave it an authenticity, like a for the fans kind of vibe. But the actual experience in hearing it, I don't know. Seeing the Arkham game aesthetic with those voices was not super pleasant to me.
Yeah, see, with that, I adjusted to it and just became like part of the experience. But what Weller did the first time I watched it, I was like, I'm not sure how much I'm feeling this. But upon rewatches, his performance draws me in more and more each time. Just because, like, he's not changing the voice. He's not doing like a gravelly Batman voice.
Right.
He's just doing his voice. There's no difference in the voice between Bruce and Batman, which at that point in his life in the story, there pretty much wouldn't be, because he didn't care anymore.
Yeah. I'm going to say thematically that makes sense.
Yeah. And so it was, and Michael, his last name escapes me. He was the guy from Lost, the villain with the glasses.
It's.
I'm gonna get it here in a second.
Yeah, we're both Michael Emerson.
Michael Emerson does the Joker.
Yes,
and he's great.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
I could see that working really well. Actually, I could see him working as a live action Joker. To be honest with you, but
back when Nolan was making his films and Julie had me watching Lost, I was like, this guy would make a fantastic Riddler.
That would work too.
Yeah, like I want to see this guy's Riddler. But anyway, so the Dark Knight Returns animated film, if you haven't seen it, I highly, highly recommend it. If you have HBO Max, both parts are on there now. You can actually get Blu-ray of the entire the full film. It comes in just under 2.5 hours, or 2.5 hours, pretty much on the dot. And it's fantastic. I mean, I love the story. It's a great adaptation. It kills me that you haven't seen it yet.
Well, the HBO Max situation isn't going to help that at all. Unfortunately, my time is. Oh, Carl.
Yeah.
What they don't tell you about having kids.
Yeah.
What we all kind of know, but you don't really appreciate until you have them. Oh, your time.
Yeah, your time. So yeah, a little bit of Batman talk there.
Yeah. I mean, it's
good. We both enjoy the character, I feel.
I do. I just feel like he's been overdone. I long for the simpler days, Carl, but it might be more of a me thing than anything. But I feel like he's been, like I said, when Batman '89 came out, it was a watershed moment, right? And it was a big deal because there wasn't a big representation of Batman, outside of comics at that time. God, now Batman has been just I know like we said, the '89 was omnipresent in the culture at the time, but not in the same way that he's omnipresent now. It's hard to explain what I mean by that, but like the poster and the hype for the movie was omnipresent in '89. now Batman and in all his batness is just like everywhere, and everyone loves Batman, and everyone likes to talk about the same stuff about Batman, and I'm like burned out on Batman. I still love Batman. I still love, the great Batman stories, the character in concept and everything. I dig. I have, my soft spots for certain arcs and all that, but like, I'm just burned out right now on Batman. I think it's been they could have pumped the brakes harder post Nolan, I feel, but we got to keep that train a rolling. So, it is what it is. But I do love Batman, even if it seems like I don't.
Let's take it back to Dark Knight Returns and quote Commissioner Ellen Yindel. He's too big now.
Yeah, right. That said, the Matt Reeves Pattinson stuff is speaking my language to a degree. So I'm feeling the vibe on that one right now. Until I see it in motion, of course. When we'll see. But that from what I've seen of that so far, I'm getting those tingles again. Those like, oh yeah, Batman. I don't know why.
Loving the way the Batmobile looks.
I think that's what it is. I think it's the car.
Still questioning the tactical purposes of an open exposed engine.
Hey! Look, what do we say about the '89 Batmobile? Doesn't make any sense, but it works.
Exposed jet turbine.
Or as you are so fond of saying, tell me a good story, I will forgive you some sins.
Yes, there you go. Okay, so let us move on to our look back at Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Look at all this content you're getting from us this week. Oh my God. You're getting big old Bat retrospective. Now you're getting a big old Star Wars retrospective. Wow.
15 years old this year.
Is it really?
Episode 3 came out in 2005.
That's so weird. It feels more recent than that. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. I know that's right, but it feels newer to me. But I guess that's right.
Yeah. So, okay.
Huh.
These previous 2 episodes, I will admit, have not gone the way I've hoped. the previous 2 recaps. So, I mean, you are a very passionate person. You have your thoughts, and try as I may to channel them in a different direction, I cannot do it. So here's what we're going to do, Drew.
I mean, okay, go on.
You just go.
Oh, no. Look.
You just go. You say what you want to say, and then I'll say what I want to say, and we'll be able to put the prequels behind us.
I'm looking forward to that.
On to better things.
Jen asked me, she's like, "You have to watch a Star Wars movie?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's the last bad one, and then we can talk about good ones again." and then I can actually enjoy watching them again.
It's not the last bad one.
It's the last this bad one.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So go ahead. Share with us your notes and experience of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
The notes will be posted as always. To be fair, I'll be charitable to this one to some degree. Now, look, it's not good. Okay, I'm not going to mince words. This is not a good movie, and I do not recommend anyone sit through it. However, after the last movie, I will say this: it seems like an attempt was made. I'm not saying it was a successful attempt, but it does show in the finished product. An attempt was made to make a better film than Attack of the Clones. Almost to the point of overcorrection in a lot of ways. So, what I mean by that, well, if the terrible, terrible love story was, ruining Attack of the Clones, not to worry, because in this one, Padme is basically reduced to a literally do nothing character. That kind of took me aback, given that she has been, a central figure in the trilogy thus far, and now in this one, she does nothing, like at all. Kind of weird. I didn't expect that to stick out so much to me when I was going back to watch this, but I'm watching it, I'm like, man, they sidelined her. Now I know she's pregnant, but man, they sidelined her. She has nothing to do. Anyway, the slapstick stuff is still there, although in smaller doses. This movie, there's little moments that took me aback a little bit, where I was kind of like, it's kind of like when we saw Justice League. There were those moments when we kind of thought to ourselves, like, if this could be the whole movie, it would be great. You almost had it. But then the rest of the movie happens and you don't have it. So, like, Obi-Wan and Anakin in this, it's still, Hayden Christensen is still struggling with what he's been given and what he's being asked to do. But there are moments, at least one moment anyway, that I found. They try and play up their chumminess early on in the film, and it doesn't really work, but it's still, like, somewhat better than what they were doing in Attack of the Clones. But after they do their little rescue mission of the Chancellor, and believe me, that whole sequence was stupid, but I digress. They have this little exchange on the platform where they talk about, like, you saved me for the 10th time, 9th time, whatever. There's just a certain... That delivery and that exchange, Hayden Christensen actually, like, shows some... It feels like he shows some genuine emotion and humanity. And Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor doing yeoman's work in this role, doing so much with so little. Like, I feel bad for him, and yet, I respect him, because he really brought for such a what am I trying to say? In a series of films where, like, everyone is just probably struggling to death with what they're being asked to do by George, Ewan McGregor somehow shines through with personality and charm, And in this little exchange of the two of them on that landing platform, for a moment, I was like, see, that should have been, like, 2 movies of that. We see their friendship. We see them actually, being somewhat normal people. No one acts like normal people in these movies. You know what I mean? Like, everyone just acts like a robot all the time. In a movie with actual robots, that's incredible. But sometimes actual personality shines through. And when it does, it's like, oh, hey, wait a minute. There it is. And that happens for a brief shining moment in this film. And I was like, you could have did that 2 movies ago, and we could have altered the whole trajectory of this thing, and it would have gone a long way. But alas, it really didn't. I don't know really what to say about this movie. There's a lot of fluff in it, I feel. Structurally, I look at things structurally, and it's that media study in me. God, there's just so many shots of ships landing. Like, I get it. You need to, like, George just fell in love with his ship establishing shots, and it just, you could cut out, like, at least 10 minutes of film with shortening those shots. I swear. And this is another example in this movie of George trying to tie everyone together in various ways. Yoda meeting Chewbacca, like, our buddies, like, what? Okay, sure, I guess. And there's those dialogue callbacks that are so forced. I'm trying to, I think I made notes of a couple of them, but it's just like, in that opening sequence with Obi-Wan and Anakin flying the ships to the thing. There's just several. There's several instances of dialogue being lifted out of the original trilogy that just they serve no real purpose in this movie except to go like, huh, remember? And it's like, oh God, come on, George, just write the movie, write the movie you want to make, and don't stop trying to poke me, in the chest, going like, huh, see, remember? Yes, George, I remember. It's a Star Wars movie. I'm here because I remember, Anyway. Dooku dies too early. I think I said about episode 2. One of the things I did like about that movie was Count Dooku. Huge missed opportunity not using more of him. And here he's taken out early on to little fanfare. And it's like, oh, well, so much for that. And then we get stuck with this coughing robot guy, Grievous, who was really dumb. Whatever. He might as well not even really exist because he's just a thing that Obi-Wan can fight later. There's a lot of just nothingness in this film. A lot of it's just wasted space. Like, I don't know. It's action for the sake of action. It's kind of like you said earlier. Like you wanted to put something on that you could just kind of like half pay attention to, and that's how I felt watching episode 3. Like, there's just all these action beats that there's no real drama in them. There's no tension. There's no stakes, but it's just stuff going on the screen. And it doesn't really mean anything. It's just getting us to the next thing. But George wants to ramp up the action a little bit. And it's like, okay, but why? I don't know. Some people would probably say this is like the best of the prequel trilogy. And I don't know if I could, to be honest with you, I don't know if I could get there, Carl. I might actually say that for as bad as it is, and for as much as I really did not enjoy my experience watching it, I think The Phantom Menace might be the best of the prequels.
Okay.
That's just how I feel. Because this one just overcorrects in all the wrong ways. Like I said, it sidelines Padme, I feel like, because George got mad that people didn't like his love story, and then because people thought that they were too kiddie in these movies, this one suddenly decides to get like overly violent and crazy. Like they cut off Dooku's head, and like Vader kills kids and stuff. I'm like, okay. For kids. These movies. I don't know. It's just kind of a muddled mess, and I don't like how it makes everything interconnected. It makes this great big galaxy that much smaller. And narratively, it really doesn't tie together that well. I mean, it just seems like it's trying to check off things that it has like a list of things it has to do. It's got boxes to tick to get us to A New Hope, and it just starts running through them. Like Yoda, just bails to Dagobah, and that's just where he goes for 20 years. Like that's it. Like that's just what happens. Obi-Wan goes to Tatooine and chills out for 20 years. Like it just okay. Everything's just gonna sit around for a while. We're all just gonna hang. Okay, I guess. I mean, I know it. You could argue it kind of has to be that way, but it feels odd that everyone just kind of gave up at the end and just decided, we'll wait around till Luke comes around. Like, whoa, what a plan. I don't know. It's weird. It's just weird. All those Jedi get taken out by stormtroopers. That seems really stupid to me. Sure, they were ambushed. I get it. But you were Jedi. You were all powerful Jedi Knights. When I was a kid, I thought you guys were supposed to be the coolest and the bestest. Some stormtroopers just got the drop on you. Okay. Guess you weren't that cool. I don't know. Palpatine's got lightsaber. I don't know. I don't even know. There's not much else I can really say, to be honest. I don't want to just... I've said my piece. I can't get to a place where I'm okay with these movies. So
Okay. You good?
I'm pretty good.
You good?
You let me go. I was waiting for you to step in.
Yeah, no. It's like I said, it's not to say we're not gonna touch on some stuff there, but I just wanted to let you get your stuff out there, and that you're not you're not 100% wrong. I'm not. There's a lot of things I agree with you on, some things that don't quite see eye to eye on, but that's kind of been the flow of the prequel episodes so far. Yeah, it's for me. Yes, it is the best of the prequels. It's not a good movie, but I don't think it necessarily goes so far as being a bad movie. It's definitely rewatchable for me. Of the three prequel films, this is the one that I will not chagrin rewatching. Just kind of start from the beginning. I love me a good space battle, and oh boy, do we get one in the beginning. I was like, when I was first watching, I was like, wait, no, don't go in the big ship yet. Can we stay out here? There's a lot of fun stuff going on out here. I was like watching, and every time I rewatch it since then, just looking at the background stuff that's going on, and just getting a sense of what that level of warfare was like at that time. I think it's just really cool to watch. I like to see the different the ship designs and how they interact. The Arc 170 are kind of like the X-wing looking ships that the clones are flying. It's always been one of my. I've always really liked that design. I believe it's called the ships that Obi-Wan and Anakin flying. I believe they're called the Ecta 2E. You kind of see they kind of lay the groundwork of where Imperial design is heading. How they kind of favor lighter, cheaper, faster, more maneuverable ships as opposed to what eventually becomes the Rebellion ships and like kind of more durable, can take a hit more, things like that. So the opening space battle scene I was always a big fan of. The rescue scene, it's not great. It's like it's almost like they're trying to do a James Bond opening to the movie, just opening with a big action scene and then kind of slow it down from there. The thing I always really liked about the film that I always go back to is how/why Anakin made the turn to the dark. I like that it wasn't just Palpatine whispering in his ear. It wasn't just being pulled to the dark side by the dark side. It was the Jedi compromising their own beliefs. The Jedi giving him reason to believe that maybe they are not the way, maybe Palpatine is the way. I think Ian McDiarmid is great in this as Palpatine. Probably one of easily his best performance in the prequel trilogy. I wasn't crazy that. I mean, dude, you gotta stop electrocuting yourself.
Dude, that. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop. You let me go. I'm gonna let you go.
You do in this one. You do it in episode 9. It's just like, just stop shooting yourself.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy, and still not that they put him in the heavy makeup and prosthetics.
Yeah.
Return just to kind of make it like, if you want to just have him pull the hood up and just let him go, I'm fine with that. I can believe that this guy ages and like the dark side is kind of corroding his physical being. I get that in Jedi. Like, you don't need to show me how he gets there.
That's George, man.
Like, I get how aging works,
Yeah.
George. Believe me, my I my hair is in stark retreat. The hairline keeps falling back to a rally point. I get how aging works. You don't need to show them that. I think some of the things that we get to see in this are kind of cool with as far as the evolution of the clone troopers. Like they go from the beginning of the Clone Wars in episode 2, where they're all just like 90% of them are just white. They have no personality whatsoever and whatnot. In this one, like, we see that some of them have names and there's different designs of them. And, we see it's mostly done with Obi-Wan and Cody in very brief instances that there's a trust between the Jedi and the clones. I've never bought into the argument of, well, the Jedi were just killed by a bunch of stormtroopers. Well, because everyone kind of defaults to this, well, Jedi are supposed to be these super powerful beings. No, they're not supposed to be. Where in the classic trilogy is that ever established that the Jedi are super powerful beings? The Jedi are in the classic trilogy, the Jedi are established as peacekeepers. That is it. There is nothing in the classic trilogy that gives any allusion to what their power levels at their peak were or were not. So them being wiped out by the clones, which canonically are vastly superior to stormtroopers, I'm okay with that. That makes sense to me. And it shows and obviously things that have come after the films, ancillary things to the films, the Clone Wars animated series, Rebels, shows just like how long of a game Palpatine was playing with this whole Order 66 plan. Unfortunately, because of the film shortcomings, we don't get that flushed out. But they've really explored it really well in a lot of the ancillary stories afterwards. I like, we got a chance to see Kashyyyk, which was cool. I like the design of it and whatnot. I'm totally with you as far as Chewbacca being there. We don't need Chewbacca there. Why is he there? He doesn't need to be there at all. What else? Just kind of seeing some of the other worlds was really interesting. Grievous is not great in the film. Like you said, he's just kind of there for something for Obi-Wan to fight. And they made it such a big deal, all the promotional stuff leading into this film about it. He's got 4 arms, he's got 4 lightsabers, and then Obi-Wan instantly cuts off 2 of those arms.
Yeah.
So this we were in a film trilogy where you started us off with Qui-Gon Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul, which was technically spectacular, and then you kind of leave with this. But then we get to the Anakin Obi-Wan fight, which starts out really solid, both technically and emotionally.
Goes too long.
It does go too long.
Goes too long. It goes on for 20 minutes.
And it's not so much the length as it is the structure of the length.
Well, yeah, at a certain point.
As soon as they start surfing on droids and riding parts of scaffolding that's falling down, everything up until that point was great. You felt the emotion there, and the saber technique is the best that's been seen on screen to this point. But as soon as they turn it into an amusement park ride, you lose all that momentum you're building up, and you don't get it back
because your brain knows that it's all not real.
Yeah. and you don't get it back until like the much gift scene. I have the high ground and whatnot. Again, Ewan McGregor making gold out of straw with what he's being given. Like that scene, like that last scene between him and Anakin, like just you see the heartbreak there, and knowing like where these characters ultimately go and whatnot. The Vader transformation scene isn't. Yes, we obviously all know the no. Definitely could have been done differently. Showing the construction of the suit and the application of the suit. That's all well and good. That's fine. That looks great. But as soon as he Frankenstein's off that thing, you're like, it's like the second they start building good momentum, they do something that immediately sabotages.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually.
And it's just like,
I'm sorry, but you're right. Yeah. And the thing, but again, though, even putting him in the final, he's in the final iteration of the suit right away, and then that's just the suit for 20 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, man, you could put him in some kind of proto Vader suit, and I would, you know what I mean? I get it. I would understand, like, oh, I get it. And then 20 years later, he's made modifications, or he's tweaked this or that. He looks different. You know what I mean? Right. But nope. There it is. It's in the suit. The suit we all know. The suit you're like. All right. It's just George checking off the list. You know. And I'm not saying it was lazy. I'm saying, if anything, it's overdone. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I agree. I feel like as we're talking about like the final duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan, as much as that is like just pure emotion and saber technique and whatnot, I would have liked to have seen the fight between Sidious and Yoda not have any lightsabers at all.
Big agree.
With the Force.
I think I've been on record about this. I don't think Yoda or the Emperor should have ever taken out a lightsaber, ever.
Well, I'm totally fine with the first scene where the Jedi come to arrest him. Because we have to establish that how powerful he is, not just in the Force, but that he is a full-blown Sith Lord. And can, at this point, it doesn't make any sense. If we're going to make the argument that in New Hope, Obi-Wan is still able to defend himself with a lightsaber, we can't say that Palpatine, the logic doesn't hold out that Palpatine wouldn't be able to as well.
I guess my read on it has always been, going by the dialogue of the original trilogy, the lightsaber is, as Palpatine states, a Jedi's weapon. And Vader just happened to use one because he was a former Jedi. The Emperor, to me, used the Force. He did not use the lightsaber. The Emperor was strong in the dark side. He could throw lightning, and even that isn't the limit of his abilities. It seems to be the limit of Star Wars writers' imaginations in a lot of instances. But the dark side seemed to be a place where powers like that manifested, and they did decrepit things to you, and they wrecked you like they did. I mean, again, this was all in my mind watching the original trilogy, and lightsabers were Jedi territory, and Vader used one because he was a former Jedi. That's the way I always just understood it, based on the language of cinema and the script, for that matter. And then Yoda, yes, Yoda was a Jedi, but again, based on what I saw in the original trilogy, I had no inclination or belief that he ever held a lightsaber, or that he was proficient with one, at least, because he seemed to be above all that. And that he was the opposite of the Emperor. Whereas the Emperor, he had all these like demonic weird powers. Yoda was strong in the good side, the focused side. And lightsabers were just not his purview. He was above them. He didn't need them.
Yeah, so you can make an argument that there's like a point in both Jedi and Sith where you move beyond the lightsaber.
Exactly. Like I feel like George. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it somehow along the way became this de facto thing that lightsaber equals Jedi, or lightsaber equals the Force, or if you use the Force, therefore lightsaber. And
Right.
I never thought that growing up. Like, a Jedi Knight would wield a lightsaber, sure, Obi-Wan, Luke, Vader, but the Force was bigger than a sword, okay? The Force was bigger than a weapon.
Sure.
That was like the whole point of it, that it was so much bigger than any one weapon. Luke doesn't even use a lightsaber outside of, like, you know, a training sequence in A New Hope. He uses the Force to focus his mind to take the shot at the Death Star. Like, the Force is bigger than a lightsaber. And somehow, man, that message got lost, and everything just had to be about lightsabers at some point. And that's just really disappointing to me. Again, like, you're going to sense a theme here, it just makes everything feel so much smaller. Like,
No, I get that. Again, I know that, like, for lack of a better term, I know you're going to roll your eyes at this, but a lot of the ancillary media has really incorporated the lightsaber into being a very personal thing for a Jedi. Like, a Padawan has to go to a planet that we actually saw in Force Awakens because it is what the First Order created Starkiller Base out of. It was that planet. The name of it escapes me in a moment, but all Padawans would have to go to a planet, be guided by the Force to their specific kyber crystal.
that's fine. Jedi can do that. But my overall point, though, was beyond the Jedi. It's like the Force itself should not be reduced to a weapon. So the fact that Sidious has a lightsaber,
no, I get that.
You know, it's like I don't know.
With the Sith, it's different. Like, their lightsaber cannot be. They cannot, find their lightsaber, build their own lightsaber. They have to take a crystal from a Jedi and make that crystal bleed, which is why the blade is red. So, I mean, more or less I'm saying, like, the ancillary media has really flushed it out, surprisingly, sarcastically, in a better way than the prequel trilogy has. But no, I think, again, you're making valid points. And again, I'm good. Like, I'm fine with Palpatine having a lightsaber. I'm fine with him not having a lightsaber. It's not something that defined his character necessarily for me, so it's not necessarily something that detracts from his character, him having one. Trying to think what else. Yeah, I agree with you on Padme. She just didn't really have anything to do in this film other than give birth and die.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Just really great character. Trying to think what else.
Considering how central she was to the narrative of the first two prequels, and like how central her character was in another way to like the overarching plot, like, man, she is totally a non-factor outside of giving birth and dying. Like, this whole
she really just gets reduced to
she brushes her hair in a window. That's it. And
she gets reduced to being Palpatine's pawn and he uses to manipulate Anakin.
Yeah, like, yeah, that's a huge step down for her character.
So yeah, there are a lot of things about this film that I like. There are a lot of things about this film that I definitely see eye to eye with you on. Again, to me, it is the best of the prequel trilogy. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I got on it. If there's anything you want to circle back to?
It's just it's just an overall, on paper, the plot of the prequels could work, but it really these movies are kind of like failures of execution more than anything.
It's like I've always said, the prequels are telling a good story. They're just doing it with bad execution.
There could be, they needed a human touch for one. I needed to care about these characters, and unfortunately, George's dialogue does not provide that. And then I don't even know if it's the characters themselves that make it impenetrable. I don't know, but I'm sure with a good script we could get there. Harrison Ford doing the Lord's work in the original trilogy as the straight guy, you know what I mean? Because you kind of need that to make some kind of sense out of the weirdness. You need a straight man there to either sell it as normal or to react to how weird it is. The audience needs some kind of surrogate at a certain point. But anyway, there's so many instances of like, I don't know what is happening and I don't know why I should care. So like you said about how the opening space battle, how, awesome it is. Yeah, visually there's a lot going on. Unfortunately for me, these movies didn't set up a really strong visual language to tell me what is what and who is who and why. What I mean by that is, in the original trilogy, I know, because the movies make it very clear, Star Destroyers and TIE Fighters are bad. X-Wings and Millennium Falcons are good. And that is a theme through all three films, to the point where I see those ships doing battle, I know who the good guys are, I know who the bad guys are, and I know the stakes of what is happening based on what ships are getting blown up and when. In that opening sequence in episode 3, I don't have a clue what is what, who is who, and why, because the movies didn't spend any time at all establishing any of that for me to care. The closest thing I got is the donut hole droid ship from episode 1. That's it. That's all I could really tell you. Right. Because it just wasn't an important thing to establish, apparently, in these movies. So by the time things are happening that are supposed to matter, I have no idea what I'm looking at. And there is like no maybe it was the point and it was just executed poorly, but I don't know who the bad guys in like the Clone War itself. I don't know who is fighting who and why. Should I be like, I guess I'm rooting for the Jedi to win, but like there's the Separatists, but then there's the clone troopers, and yet the good guys are actually the bad guy. Like, none of it really clicks on any real level. I don't understand the stakes of any of this. That was kind of poor from the beginning. The Trade Federation and all that. Like, okay, I get that you're the bad guys, and I'm air quoting, but why? Why are you blockading? Why are you doing this thing? And then why is that bad? And then why is the Senate voting on the thing? That it's all just very murky, and there's no human. I don't understand the stakes of any of it. It's really impenetrable. I don't know, and yeah, I think had that stuff been established. I mean, these are critical failures, so it's hard to say if only they did this one thing. Well, yeah. That one thing is very big, unfortunately. It would have helped in laying the groundwork of like, oh, okay, this is why I should care about this war. And the war itself, man, like, it doesn't seem to really affect anybody. Like, I'm sorry to say, but like, Padme's just chilling out on Coruscant, brushing her hair in the window. If there's a war going on, man, we don't really see the cost of it anywhere, do we? Everything just seems fine on Coruscant. Everything's cool. And then, once in a while we'll go to some, weird planet and oh, well, here's fighting happening. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, la 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 la. What war? That kind of irks me a little bit. And same thing with Naboo. The planet got blockaded. Remember we talked about this. It's like your super lush planet, and the droids took over, and it was so bad. And then you look around, it's like, was it? I don't know. Everything looks good. Everyone's okay. Having a big old parade after the fact. Everything looks good. I don't know. It's just failures in execution. On paper, the story of how a good body of government goes bad, and how the peacekeepers got played, and how they got turned against, and all that. It's all theoretically good, but it needed a deft hand in the scripting department to pull it off, and it just didn't go that way, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I agree. So yeah, that Drew, we're done with the prequels.
Oh, thank God. Oh, I'm see, now I'm looking forward to watching Star Wars again from this point forward.
All right, so that is going to wrap it up for us this week. As always, we appreciate all of you joining us. We'll be back again hopefully in 2 weeks to head on into the sequel trilogy, starting with The Force Awakens. In the meantime, if you want to reach out to us, communicate with us, shoot us any questions or comments to be read on the show, you can do so at the following locations. You can find us on Twitter and follow us at Devils Do Pod. You can like our Facebook page at facebook.com/DevilsDoPod. You can email us at thedevilsdopod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdopodcast.com. Drew, any closing thoughts?
No. Are we gonna watch the spin-off flicks too?
Yeah, we'll evaluate when we get to the end of the Skywalker saga proper.
Okay, that's fair. Good deal. Good deal.
So I want to make sure we do the main episodes. Then if you still feel it, you got it in you, especially after Rise of Skywalker.
I'll be honest. I've only seen it the one time, so curious how that will all hash out upon review. We'll find out in a few weeks.
Alrighty. So, folks, thanks again for joining us. We hope you all have a great 4th of July. At the point you'll be listening to this, a great 4th of July weekend.
I hope you have all your fingers and toes, folks.
Yes. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Please wear a mask out in public.
Yes, please.
Please believe that Black Lives Matter, and just be excellent to each other. Don't do bad things to other people.
And socially distance party on, dude.
Yes, socially distance party on. All right. Take it easy, folks. We'll see you back.